Happening people, how are you all doing? Welcome back to a new video. So I did a similar video to this last year. What I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be going through all of the out of contract players in the summer, and I'm going to be determining who should stay and who should be leaving the club. Just to point out, 9 of the 15 of these players are Charlton's players. They're current permanent players. The other 6 are loan players. So with the loan players, I'm just going to be deciding whether these loan players are going to return to the club, whether that be on loan or on a permanent. And as for the permanents, I'll be deciding whether they will be re-signing with the club or whether they won't, or whether I think they'll be signing for the club or whether they won't be. So without any further hesitation, let's dive straight into this. So we're kicking things off with fullback Lewis Paige, and this one's a shame, it has to be said, because the guy just keeps breaking down. He's literally, I've said this several times in so many videos, but this guy is just an absolute shard of glass. His body just keeps breaking down every time. He comes back from injury, and then we read that he's playing an under-23s game, and then he gets subbed off 10 minutes in because he gets injured. He hasn't played a single minute of Championship football this year because he got injured in a pre-season friendly against Gillingham. It's such a shame, and it's so sad because Paige is only 24. He celebrated his 24th birthday recently, but it just keeps breaking down and keeps getting injured, and at this point, I hate to put it this way, but he's becoming a bit of a liability with our squad. I do think that if he is fully fit, I think he'd be our starting left back over Pertinen. That's my opinion, but the fact he isn't fully fit, and I did a Instagram poll with all of these players, by the way, and 59% of you voted in favour to Paige to leave the club, and I have to agree with you. I think that it's time Paige leaves Charlton. I think that he should go to a team like a League One side and get some more game time, because he just keeps breaking down with us. Hopefully, if this season is to restart, we'll get to see him a little bit, because I believe he is fully fit now, so hopefully we'll get to see him in action. But yeah, for me, his injuries have cost us too many times, and I think that it's probably best if he moves on. Next on our list is Ben Amos, the former Bolton Wanderers goalkeeper who signed for the club on a 1-year contract, but he does have the option to sign an additional year on his contract if he wishes to. Now, again, this one, I can't really go into much depth with this one either, because again, like Lewis Paige, hasn't played at all this season. Well, he has. He's played cup games, and that's about it. Played against Forest Green in the cup. I believe he played against West Brom in the FA Cup as well, but that's it. He's been second best to Dylan Phillips, so I can't really judge him based off his season. On the Instagram poll, 61% of you voted in favour for him to leave the club, and 39 said for you to stay. I'm on the fence with this one. I don't really mind if he is to stay or if he is to go. If Phillips stays and Amos wants to stay, and he wants to stay as our second choice keeper, I don't have a problem with that. If he wants to leave, fair dues, we can bring in someone else to be our backup. But yeah, I'm on the fence with Ben, to be honest. I wouldn't mind him staying, but I wouldn't mind him leaving either. But yeah, I wish we could have seen something from him this season. Youth Academy graduate turned senior member of the squad, Albie Morgan, is also out of contract in the summer, and this one is a relatively easy one. I think personally Albie Morgan's going to want to stay at the club. Morgan was actually shipped out on loan to Ebbsfleet United in the National League. He was recalled due to the injury crisis that we had, and like many of our Youth Academy graduates this season, like I've said several times over the past months, they really stepped up and they really performed, and Morgan was one of them. Of course, last season in League One, he was absolutely unbelievable, and I really wish that he grabbed a goal during that season. I think he's had a good chance to score a couple this season as well, but for me, Morgan, I think he's going to want to stay. I think regardless of what league we're going to be in, if we do go down to League One, worst case scenario, I still think Morgan will be staying, because I think that he'll be hopefully enlisted as a regular starter in the squad. And on Instagram poll, 90% of you agree with me, 90% of you agree for him to stay at the club, and I think the same thing. I do think though a loan spell is probably for the best with Morgan, maybe like spend like a year out with like a League One or a League Two side, because I definitely think he's more than capable of playing at that level. Another player that's been plagued with injuries in the squad this year, Jake Caskey, and not just this season, but over the last couple of seasons now. Of course, he suffered an ACL injury in training last year, took him out for the entire season. This year, started on the first game of the season against Blackburn, was quite underwhelming considering the previous times we've seen him play. I remember back in 2017-18 he was absolutely fantastic in League One level, but he just keeps getting injured and keeps breaking down like Lewis Paige. When he was actually utilised as a left wing back earlier on in the season in October, I've said this a couple of times, but he was absolutely fantastic, and then of course he was one of the players that was part of the double injury against Bristol City, him and Sam Field, and we haven't really seen Caskey at his best or seen him on the pitch at all, for that matter of fact. 76% of you on the Instagram poll voted for him to stay. I do rate Caskey, but I can't help but feel there is a little part of me that I think that he should move on, but I'm on the fence with Caskey as well. I wouldn't really mind if he stayed, I wouldn't really mind if he left. Chances are, I think he's going to be staying. I think he'll probably be signing a contract extension. I don't really think he'll mind going down to League One and staying with the club because, of course, he's not got much game time to his name this season. I don't think I need to go into much detail with this one, but one-man club Chris Solly, we all know what's going to happen, is it? 74% of you voted in favour for him to stay, and we all know he's going to be staying, isn't he? He's going to be seeing out his career at Charlton. He's been here from the academy upwards, and he's now team captain, but it's been second best to Adam Matthews this season. We all know Solly's going to stay, and really, not much else to say, really. David Davis was one of the players who came across on loan in the January transfer window from Birmingham City, and for the player that he was hyped to be, he's been one of our biggest flops this season. Birmingham fans had quite a lot of positive things to say about him, but I actually thought that he was going to be our best signing of the January transfer window. I thought he'd be an upgrade on Darren Pratley. He's 29 years old, a bit of a tank, built like a unit, and he's just been the exact opposite, really. He's been an absolute flop. 71% of you voted for him to leave the club, and personally, I don't want him to come back on loan either, to be honest. I think he's been absolutely shocking, absolutely awful. Right back, Adam Matthews, 100% needs to stay. 84% of you agree with me on that one, but this guy has to stay on board at the club. Came across from Sunderland as a free agent, missed like the first 2 months of the season, and honestly, he's been absolutely flawless. Cemented himself in the starting 11 despite not playing the first 2 months of the season, and he's brought himself up to fitness really quickly, and he's been absolutely fantastic. He drives forward really well. He plays that wing-back position really well. A lot of people said actually he's good as a wing-back but not as a full-back, and I felt that I actually agreed with that at the start. He drove forward really well, was pushing forward, swinging the balls in the box and creating some attacks, and then towards the end of the season, the latter stages, his defensive game really improved, and he's turned to be a really solid defender. My opinion, one of, if not our best defender this season, and I do think that regardless of what league we're going to be in this season, I think he's going to want to stay. Welsh magician Johnny Williams is also out of contract in the summer, but like Ben Amos, has the option to extend his contract for an additional year if he chooses to. Williams is just such a big shame, man, because he's such a quality player when he's fit. The only issue is he rarely is fit. He started the season brilliantly with 5 assists at the start and then got in the injury against Derby, and for me just hasn't been the same player. He's just, again, like falls to Caskey and Paige and players like that, he just keeps breaking down and just keeps on getting injured. But for me personally, I hope that he does stay, because I do think that when he is fit, he's one of our best performing players. Will he stay though is another question. I'm not really too sure about that. If I'm honest, with the amount of injuries that he's sustained over the years, I'm not really too sure who's going to want to take him in. I'm not all too sure with this one. 94% of you said that Williams will stay, 6% said leave. I'm not really too surprised by that. I actually think that that was the most one-sided poll we've had. I hope that he does, but I'm not sure if he will. It's up to him entirely if he wants to extend that year. I don't see why he wouldn't, but if we're in League One, then I don't think he's going to want to be sticking around in League One again. But then again, that is up to him. It's just a shame that Williams keeps getting injured and keeps breaking down. Toma Hemed, I don't think I really need to justify myself with this one, and you guys seem to be in agreement as well. 75 to 25 vote in favour for him to leave, and less said about this guy the better, if I'm being honest. He had so much hype when he came across from Brighton. People thought, yeah, he's going to be really good, and when I first saw him, slow. I think it's the best way to describe it, really. He just hasn't really been good enough, if we're being honest. From January onwards, though, I've seen him a much better player from the start of the season. He lost quite a lot of weight, you could see it. And even now, you can see that the shape that he's in an absolutely incredible shape. But the problem is, he's just too slow. He really is too slow. And target men is just, in recent years, it's been proven that target men at Charlton just haven't really worked out, if I'm being honest. And Hemed is one of them, sadly. Not one goal to his name this season at all. He's been an absolute flop. Probably our most pointless signing of the season, Manchester City midfielder Matt Smith. Why the bloody hell did we sign this guy? He's come into the club and literally hasn't played at all. He's only come off the bench like once against Blackburn, I think it was, but the guy just hasn't played, and I do feel sorry for him because his CV suggests that he's a decent player, comes from one of the best teams in the world, and it's a decent CV, yet George Lapsley, Youth Academy graduate, is getting ahead of him in the team, and I do feel sorry for him, but I do hope that we get to see a little bit of Smith in the remaining 9 games. As a matter of fact, he did actually say that Lee Bowyer confirmed that Smith was one of the players that said no to returning to training, which you can't really blame him for, because obviously players have different circumstances. They may have families to look out for and things like that, but yeah, don't blame Smith at all. But It's just a shame that we didn't get to see the player that I think that he could have been. I think he could have been a decent little player. He's only 19 or 20 or something like that. 58% of you voted for him to leave, for him not to come back on loan. Personally, I actually wouldn't mind if he came back on loan if he got game time, but the fact that he hasn't got game time and we've not really seen much of him, I don't really see him returning to championship level. Maybe he may even go down to League One because he struggled for games at QPR and struggled for games here, so I won't be all too surprised if next season he drops down a division. But me personally, I actually wouldn't mind seeing Matt Smith back in the Charlton shirt on loan, but I do hope that if he is to come back, we actually utilise him and give him some game time. Josh Cullen, probably our biggest loan player on our books right now, and this one is going to be a tough one to take because I do think that, like a couple players on this list, I do think that Cullen won't be returning on loan. Of course, he's had 2 brilliant seasons with Charlton out on loan in the last 2 seasons. He's commanded the midfield brilliantly, bagged a couple goals, got tons of assists, really commanded that midfield over the years. This season was an absolute joke in the midfield alongside Conor Gallagher, Johnny Williams and Darren Pratley at the start of the season. They were absolutely bossing it together. And Cullen, for me, 90% of you voted for him to stay, but I think it all depends on what's going to happen with this season. I don't know if Cullen's going to want to come back to us after this year. Obviously, he has said several times he says that he sees his future at West Ham, but with the likes of players that West Ham have at the moment, I just can't see him staying at West Ham any longer. As a matter of fact, there's been a rumour saying that David Moyes is going to be releasing Cullen at the end of this season, but I think it depends on where the Hammers are at the end of this season. I think if West Ham go down, then obviously they'll have a massive drop in budget and they'll have a really big wage bill, so they'll have to sell the likes of Sebastian Haller, Felipe Anderson, Pablo Fornals, Declan Rice. All of them will be out of the door, and that paves the way for Cullen to get some game time in the Championship, and I definitely think that he is a solid central midfielder in the Championship that is capable of playing at Championship level, and I do think that he'll help West Ham for immediate promotions in the Premier League if they are to go down. If West Ham stay up though, I just can't see Cullen going to West Ham, so I think that he could be available on a permanent transfer. So hopefully Charlton, if we have some money to spend and our transfer embargo is uplifted, then we could have a decent chance to sign Cullen on a permanent. The only problem is, I don't think it's likely, if I'm honest. Aston Villa winger Andre Green is another player that I do hope retains his spot at the club. I think that, again, he's another player that plays for a Premier League club that's lacking game time and is more than likely going to be out of the door. Once again, Aston Villa find themselves in a relegation dogfight. If Villa do end up staying up, I do think that Green may be shipped off on a permanent basis, so that gives Charlton the perfect opportunity to snap him up once again if our transfer embargo is uplifted. Would I like to see Green back at the Valley on a permanent basis or on another loan? I think I would. I do think that at the beginning of his loan spell he did show promise as a very good player, bagged a couple of goals and turned to be a decent little player. He had a little bit of pace, a little bit of trickery about him, although towards the back end of the season, towards the stages when the season got postponed, like most of the squad, we saw the downside to him, and I don't think that he was very good at that stage. But overall, I would like to see Green back in the Charlton shirt. I'm not too sure if we'll get him back on a permanent. 80% of you think that he should stay as well, and I do hope the same thing. Now, this one divided you lot quite a lot on Instagram. Aidan McGeady, on loan from Sunderland, definitely caused a little bit of debate in the poll. 52% of you voted in favour for him to stay. It was 52-48 in favour of staying. I'm quite divided with this one because, again, like Matt Smith, McGeady has barely played. Like Bowyer said in January, McGeady's our bonus player. Undoubtedly was one of League One's best players last season, if not the best player in the league. He's come back up to the Championship and I just don't think he's good enough for this level anymore. In the games that I have seen him play, he's been quite lacklustrous, if anything. But then again though, he's not really been playing all too many games. Would I like to see him back in a Charlton shirt though? If I'm being totally honest, although we've not seen too much of him, I wouldn't want him back if I'm being honest. I don't really see him as a Championship standard player anymore. I think he's kind of lost it a little bit, but hopefully, as I say, if the season is to restart, we do get to see a little bit of McGeady. The final loan player that is expiring at the end of the season is West Bromwich Albion player Sam Field. Now this one is again a disappointing one because he wasn't really spoke about, if I'm being honest, when he did play, and he wasn't really given the praise that he deserved when he did play. I thought Field was absolutely incredible when he did play. The sharp left foot on him, had a decent eye to pass the ball, and I remember in particular against Brentford where he literally showed absolutely no hesitation to throw his body in front of the ball. He was absolutely fantastic when he played, and then of course, like I mentioned earlier, received a double injury alongside Caskey against Bristol City, and we've not really seen him since. He was set to come back very soon and then got his stud stuck in the ground and retwisted his knee in training. There's been a rumour going around the place that Field can actually see out his loan with Charlton if the season is to continue, and if that is the case, then that is a massive help because I think that in the midfield area we've been quite shot to bits with injuries over the course of this season, and midfield was one of the players that was really starting to kick on and perform really well. Of course, with West Brom looking set to be promoted this season as well, you do also have to question, will West Brom be bringing in a hell of a lot of depth? And they likely will be. And will we see Sam Field being sent off? I do actually see the Baggies offloading Sam in the summer, and again, that paves the way for Charlton to snap him up on a permanent. I don't see why Sam would be against coming back to Charlton. Of course, he struggled for game time this season. I think he'd want to go to a side where he'd get game time, and he sure as hell would get it at Charlton at the moment. And if he is to see out his loan with the club when the season is to restart, then that'd be absolutely fantastic, because as I said, he is a quality midfielder that is definitely capable of playing at this level and will hopefully help us out in our survival hopes for the season. And 66% of you on Instagram agree with me as well. You guys reckon that he should be staying. With him probably looking likely to be offloaded in the summer from West Brom, maybe it could be a little permanent signing for us to snap up. And to finish off this video, we are ending it with the big man, Lyle Taylor, up top, our top goal scorer over the last 2 years. As honest as he has been with him obviously grilling the ownership and things like that and being open about it, which Charlton fans can do nothing but thank him for that, it does kind of hint with the Montserrat International going at the end of the season. 91% of you voted for him to stay at the club. If I'm being totally honest with you, I just can't see it. I just cannot see Taylor staying at the club. I do think, though, deep down inside, with the interviews that he's given us recently, he truly does love the club and he truly does love playing for this club and he does want to stay. He spoke his mind about all the situations going on right now, and you can see that he loves the club and he really is grateful for the fans and the support that we've shown him over the years. But me personally, I just see Taylor leaving, if I'm honest. I see him going to a top-end Championship side or maybe even a lower-end Premier League side. Of course, he's coming towards the end of his career. He's 30 years old now, so that you could see this as either I get to the Premier League now or I will never get this opportunity again. So he's probably going to go to a Premier League side like Norwich or something like that. But as much as I would love him to stay, I just can't see it happening. And he will be difficult to replace. He will be difficult to replace, but I'm preparing for Taylor to leave in the summer, and yeah, I think it's going to be a very sad farewell. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, can you possibly leave a like, subscribe if you're new around here, and turn on those post notifications so you're notified of when I post. What do you guys think about all of these players that are out of contract, permanent players and loan players? Who do you think should stay? Who do you think should leave? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed. This has been Tyler Renson. Have a nice day, and I will see you all in the next video. Stay safe, everyone, and take it easy. See you later.